Okay, welcome everybody. It's Marcus Schubert coming to you from the Gold Coast. It's my privilege to be delivering this training to you tonight. We have two topics that I'm really excited about. The first one is dollar productive activities. And of course, that's what our business is about. Of course, we love to grow as a person. We love to make a difference to other people. But ultimately, if we're not moving product, if we're not creating volume in our business, we're really not helping anybody, and we're certainly not helping ourselves. So we want to be making sure that in this business we are being productive. And one of the most productive activities is three-way phone calls. I actually often refer to three-way phone calls as the barometer of your business. The more three-way phone calls are happening, the healthier your business. And of course, in reverse, if you're not doing three-way phone calls, or if the three-way phone calls are only happening very rarely, then business is typically slow. So let's dive in and look at, first of all, what dollar productive activities should we be focused on? Of course, we need to start with contacting and inviting prospects. If we're not contacting prospects, then of course, number two is not going to be happening. We're not going to be getting eyeballs on presentations. And you know, if people are not turning up to presentations, I just ask people, well, have you been inviting people to look at a video? Have you been inviting people to come onto a webinar? Have you been inviting people to come along and check out the presentation? And if the answer is no, or if the numbers are not high enough, of course, we're going to be struggling to have people looking at presentations. Of course, if people are seeing presentations, whether they are videos, whether they're webinars or live meetings, then people are going to have questions and interest. So the next step is for us to connect them through to a business partner or a leader in the business, somebody with more experience, a third party. And of course, with technology these days, we don't have to be face-to-face, but so that's where three-way phone calls can be very effective at connecting, you know, your prospect through to your business partner. Number four is meetings. Of course, they're one of the most dollar productive activities, but of course, a lot of times before somebody's prepared to come along to a meeting, they may need to have a certain degree of interest, which may come from them watching a video, having a conversation with one of your business partners. And that's a good lesson in itself. If you're inviting people directly to a hotel meeting, and if you're finding that you're having a very low success rate of people either saying yes, or people saying yes but they're not turning up, maybe you're sort of biting off too big a commitment in one hit. You know, it is a big commitment these days when people are busy for them to get home from work, get dressed up, drive across town, find a park, sit in a meeting for an hour, hour and a half, drive home again. And that's a big commitment if somebody doesn't really know if they have a high level of interest in what we're offering. You know, some people will do that, different cultures. Sometimes it will be more face-to-face, straight up front, and that might suit the particular culture or the location. But if you are having a challenge, just understand, well, hey, maybe there's some smaller things you can ask that person to do first, like watching a video, meeting with you in a coffee shop, having a quick conversation on the phone, jumping on and watching a webinar from home. And then if they like what they see, they're far more likely to then accept your invitation and actually come along to a meeting. Number five is training and conferences. So if you're looking at the health of your business, and you were tracking these activities and you were writing down the numbers, how many people have I contacted this week? How many people have I actually had view a presentation? How many people have I connected to a business partner over the phone via a three-way phone call? How many people did I have at my monthly meeting or my weekly meeting, depending on where you are? And then how many people did I have from my team attending the local training and then the company conference? These are the numbers that we need to be tracking to look at, you know, the health of our business. Now, between every single one of these steps, follow-up must occur, because even if you're inviting somebody to watch a video, a lot of times people want to watch it, but they just don't get around to it. They get busy, they forget. The fact that they didn't respond to you does not mean they were not interested. It just means maybe they didn't even see it, or maybe they watched it, loved it, and it was late, so they never messaged you. So between every single one of these steps and these activities, we need to be following up and touching base to find out what did they like, did they even do it, and then what's next for them. So here's an action plan on what you can do to track your dollar productive activities. You can take a screenshot of this particular screen at the end if you're watching this live or if you're watching the recording. So, one thing I do with people I'm working with is talk to them about, well, track the number of people you've actually contacted by phone or by instant message and physically invited to do something. Have you invited them to your launch? Have you invited them to the webinar? Have you invited them to watch a video? Have you invited them to the local meeting? Have you invited them to talk to your business partner over the phone? How many people have you actually contacted and given an invitation and asked, are you open to looking at XYZ? Then you can track, well, how many of those actually viewed a presentation? And you can put that number down. You can then look at what's the number of people who actually participated in a three-way phone call, or did you get to introduce to your business partner at the meeting after they've seen a presentation? What's the number of new distributors that come out of that? What's the number of customers? And again, how many people attended a physical meeting? So these are all things that you can actually track and look at. Well, sometimes the numbers are just not high enough, but you also may notice that the numbers are really falling off from one step to the next. So you might be up the top there contacting and inviting lots of people, but very few of those people may be actually watching a presentation. Now, if that's the case, and your ratios, if you go and contact 10 people and only one of them agrees to actually view a video or watch some sort of a presentation, maybe you need to look at, well, what are you actually saying to these people? And what's your relationship with these people? So as a coach, I can look at people's numbers and look at these ratios and say, well, okay, you seem to be dropping off in this particular area. Let's do a little bit of work on, what you're saying to these people, or what are the questions you're asking before you're inviting them to do this? Are you even qualifying these people before you invite them? Do you even know these people? What's your relationship? Maybe you don't know them well enough to be inviting them to come for a coffee yet, So another thing you're going to be wanting to be tracking is the number of people who are still in the evaluation process. So evaluate is actually a word I use a lot when I'm dealing with a prospect, because I don't want a prospect to feel like I'm pushing them into a mental corner where after they've done a certain activity, I'm expecting them to make a decision. All right, I want to help the person make a decision at some point in time, but it doesn't have to be immediately. We're not in a sales business. We're not trying to make a one-off transaction, sell them product, join them in the business, and then the job's done. No, we're trying to help somebody to evaluate our product line, evaluate our business opportunity, evaluate me, you, our business partners, our company, the culture of our business. And if we help them go through an evaluation process, at some point they will feel like they have enough information to make an educated decision as to whether the product or the business is for them. All right, so if you sort of have your prospect understand that, they're not going to feel under pressure that you're trying to close them, and they're not going to avoid doing certain activities because they're fearing that you're going to put the hard word on them and put the screws in and try to manipulate an outcome. All right, so I ask people if they're open to evaluating a business. Are they open to coming along and having a look at a presentation about the company I'm involved in? So using the words open and evaluating is something I find very user-friendly, and people feel comfortable with that. So ultimately, no matter where the person is up to during this evaluation process, whether it's my prospect or whether it's somebody in my team, when I'm speaking to somebody, I'm typically thinking, well, what is the next task that I've identified for them to do? All right, what's the next best step? All right, I'm not trying to have somebody, marry me on the first date or decide they're going to join a life-changing business after they've seen a 5-minute video. All right, we're wanting people to make some serious decisions and hopefully stick to them. Or even if it's product, we don't want someone just to try the product. We want people to decide that I want to use this product ongoing. It's different if someone owns their decision, if they feel like they've done their homework and they've made an educated decision. It's often a much more long-lasting decision if we've allowed them to go through that process. So a question can come up is, how can you improve your results ratios? In other words, if you're contacting lots of people but very few are watching presentations, how do you improve that ratio? Or maybe you are getting lots of people to see a presentation, but you're really struggling to get people who have seen a presentation to get onto a three-way phone call or to talk to your business partner or attend a meeting. So how do you improve those ratios? So there's a little test you can do. If you've got a pen and paper there, I'm going to get you to rate yourself from 1 to 10 in the following 5 areas. Now, nobody has to see these numbers. It's just for you, so you know where you can hopefully improve your level of effectiveness. Now, this was a test put together. This idea or concept was put together by Tom Strider, a guy called Big Al. Does a lot of generic training in the network marketing industry, so it's not my genius. I've sort of taken this concept from him. So the first thing you want to look at is, what's the number of people you're talking to? So rate yourself from 1 to 10 based on how many people are you actually talking to. If you're the type of person who, at every opportunity, you're contacting somebody on your prospect list, you're striking up a conversation with somebody you've added onto your Facebook, if you're the type of person who just says, hey, how you going? How's your day? How's business when you're grabbing a coffee? So how many people are you actually talking to on an ongoing basis? And it doesn't have to be how many people are you prospecting. I don't like that term prospecting. We should be out there having conversations. Very few people will ever come into our business without having a conversation with somebody. Every time I ask somebody, how did this person come to be interested in the business? Oh, well, we're having a chat on the airplane, or we were having a chat in the coffee shop, or I was talking to my friend on Facebook, or on the phone. So all business happens within a conversation. So you don't have to be targeting somebody and then fearing rejection because you think you have to put yourself on the spot and the person on the spot. But you should be having lots of conversations all the time with people, because that's where opportunities come up, is within conversation. So rate yourself from 1 to 10. If you're the type of person who's always talking to lots of people in different ways, you're a 10. If you're the type of person who sits at home like a trapdoor spider and waits for somebody to knock on the door and see if you want to switch electricity, well, you're probably a 1, all right? You need to do some work on that one. Number 2, are you qualifying, what is the quality of people that you are talking to? If you're talking to people who are positive, they're people, these are people that are out there and they're doing something. Maybe they've actually had some type of success in their life. Maybe they were successful in sport. Maybe they coached the local soccer team. Maybe they're a business person, or they've got a successful career going. Well, these are good quality people. Whereas if everybody you're talking to is sitting at home, they're on the pension, they're always broke, they've got a bad attitude, they're always complaining, they're talking about one negative relationship to the next, all of their Facebook posts are poor me, or they're swearing about this and complaining about that person, and they need an opportunity. From my experience, which now is 22 years in the industry, most of the people who succeed in network marketing don't actually need network marketing. They didn't need it. For some reason, they found a reason that they wanted it. They wanted a better lifestyle. They wanted more income. They wanted more time. They wanted to help more people. People do what they want, not what they need. So think about what's the quality of people you're talking to. There's an old saying that says, you're far better off to get a no from a multi-millionaire than a yes from the drunk on the park bench. All right, because if the millionaire says no, well, fair enough, it's a no. But if they had said yes, now you're in with a good shot of building a good business with them. But even if the drunk says yes on the park bench, what's the odds that that person's going to rise up against all odds and actually have the degree of influence to go and build a business? All right, so number 2, rate yourself from 1 to 10. Number 3, how much do people like you? All right, now this is a bit of a tough one, but if you're the type of person who, when you're walking down the street, everyone's yelling out, hey, how you going? And they're smiling and they're waving, and every time you call them, they answer the phone or they call you back. If you're sending messages to people and they typically always message you back, in other words, people respect you and actually want to communicate with you, you'd rate yourself up there, as an 8, 9, or a 10. But if you're the type of person who people are crossing the street to avoid a conversation with you, every time you call, they don't answer, they don't call back. Every time you message somebody, they don't message back. Well, maybe you need to work on your people skills a little bit. Or maybe you need to realize that not everyone has a target on their forehead, and you've got to get out of sales mode and stop rambling on about your product. Stop rambling on about your business. In other words, stop being a motivated idiot because unfortunately, and I was like this for the first few years in my career, I was motivated for sure. I was excited about my product and my business, but I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the posture to realize that I shouldn't be talking about me or my products or my business. I should be asking that person questions, taking an interest in them, finding out what's going on in their life. What are those people's needs, wants, desires? Do they have problems in their life that potentially I have a solution for? All right, so we can start to work on, well, how much do people actually like us? And the best way to have people like you is just to take an interest in them. All right, take a genuine interest and not have your salesman hat on 24/7. So number 4, what's your level of skills in talking to people? All right, and what's your level of skills particular to network marketing? All right, because if your level of skills that you can effectively invite someone to see a presentation, and a high percentage of people you can then connect them through to your business partner on a 3-way phone call, and a high percentage of people you can bring along to a meeting. Well, you've obviously developed a skill set in working with people where you can comfortably move them through the evaluation process. Whereas if you're struggling, maybe you need to go and brush up on your skills, and you need to apply those skills, and you need to practice those skills. You don't become first class at anything. You don't become a professional golfer or a professional footballer or a professional singer or a professional guitar player or a professional anything without devoting a lot of time into applying those skills and activities. And oftentimes it can be 10 years. So you better get cracking, otherwise it could be 20 years. Number 5 is, what's your self-image? All right, if you're the type of person who walks around with your head down, you talk so soft people can hardly hear you, you got your shoulders hunched over, you kind of walk into a room and you hope nobody says hello, so you sit up the back. Well, this is a people business. You don't have to be an extrovert. I am not an extrovert. In fact, I'm an introvert. Most of you guys may not, who know me, probably don't believe it, but I am. I'm a situational extrovert. So when the situation calls for it and I have to put my game face on and have to be in business mode, I'm all business and I'm happy to be out there. All right, and because I realized that, hey, that's what the business requires. Network marketing doesn't care if you're an introvert or an extrovert. It just cares that we need to talk to people, right? So if you don't have a good self-image, you need to start getting out there. If you need to eat better, if you need to brush your teeth, if you need to use deodorant, if you need to get some good clothes that make you feel good about yourself, start reading some books, hanging around positive people who actually build you up instead of tear you down. We need to do everything possible to stack the odds in our favor. So now what you've done is you've got these 5 areas where you've rated your level of effectiveness from 1 to 10. Now what you can do is multiply all of your answers together. So in other words, if I rated my effectiveness as a 5 out of 10 for all 5, I would take 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, and that would come out with 3,125 out of 100,000. All right, so I've got a long way. I can actually improve 96,875. All right, so I've got a long way to improve. The key here too is that if any of these numbers are a 0, your total will be 0. All right, so have a look at what your lowest number is, or your lowest numbers, and they're the things you need to work on, and they can impact your results the most. All right, so this is something you can do for yourself and also with your team. So moving on to 3-way phone calls, because I really believe that people are not doing enough of these, and that it not only impacts their business growing, but it impacts them growing as well, because this is where we learn the business. A lot of it is on-the-job training. So I'm going to cover why are they important, when to use 3-way phone calls, and also how to do a 3-way phone call. On the screen here, you can see if you've got an iPhone, you literally call the first person, you hit add call, as you can see on the left. Once you've called the second person, you hit merge calls, and you've got everybody on the line. But depending on what sort of phone you've got, literally go to YouTube, type in how to do a 3-way call or how to do a conference call, and your phone that you use, and there'll be a video that shows you how to do it with your type of phone. All right, so there's no excuse to not know how to do a 3-way phone call, because you can literally jump onto YouTube and learn how to do it in 30 seconds. So let's start with when to use a 3-way call. So a 3-way call is typically used as part of the business or product evaluation. So example number 1 could be you're talking to a friend, they've maybe watched a video about Jeunesse, and they go, wow, the products look great. they've got an interest in the products, maybe they've got some questions. So you may say, great, I can understand, how you would want to experience the products before getting involved in the business. If you like, let's get your order on its way. And then over the next few days, I'd love to introduce you to my business partner over the phone. They can share their experience with our products with you and answer any further questions you may have. When would suit you best to schedule a quick call? Now, for me, I don't do a three-way call with everybody who wants to use our products, okay? Whereas if I'm dealing with a prospect who I can see they would be fantastic in our business if they were to decide to be involved, and if they've already decided, hey, these products look pretty cool, I'm going to use any excuse possible to connect them up to my business partner, to hear some more positive stories, to create another relationship, and also to experience the process where they realize, hey, well, if that's kind of how the business works, that felt pretty comfortable. I didn't feel under pressure. These two people were really nice. I could maybe see myself not only doing this business, but I could see myself moving my friends through this same process because I felt comfortable, so I'm sure they will too. All right, so if I see potential in somebody and they're only interested in product, sometimes I'll still get them on a three-way phone call just to introduce them to my business partner. The second scenario is where the person has an interest in the business. They haven't said they want to do it necessarily, but they're open to it. They've seen some information, they've got some questions. Maybe you've led with the fact that you want them to evaluate a business, so they're coming in with that mindset to start with. You can say, great, what I'd love to do is introduce you to one of my business partners who's very successful. They can share their experience with you, answer any questions you may have, and should you decide to join us, I want you to know what type of people you'll have here to help you to get the best out of yourself and to build a successful business. When's the best time to schedule a quick call? All right, so I'm giving them reasons and benefits to want to be on that phone call. I'm letting them know it's a quick call, but I'm also asking them when suits them best, okay? So why a three-way phone call so important? There's a number of reasons. Number one is it builds credibility, all right? Because your friend might know you from the 5th grade where you used to fall over and have to blow your nose every 5 minutes at school, and they've seen every mistake you've ever made in life. So when you bring in a third party, you're introducing more credibility, some business credibility to the conversation, somebody who's maybe been involved longer than you. It connects your prospect to something bigger. It's not just you talking about this company, it's another person who's had some success. It also helps to build relationships. They start to feel connected to you and to your business partner. It's not just a video they're disconnected to. It's also very cost effective. You don't have to fly all around the country and all around the world to connect people together. You can just do it over the phone, and nobody had to drive anywhere or go anywhere. So it's time effective as well as cost effective. But also, when you're on a three-way phone call, this is where you're getting on-the-job training. If you have connected your prospect to your business partner, you're sitting there listening and learning, and you're getting real on-the-job training. You're not getting hypothetical, if they say this, you say that. You're hearing the business in action. This is your opportunity to learn. It also is an opportunity for your business partner to validate you. If you're the person who can connect this prospect to somebody who's important and influential within the business, your upline business partner, or even one of the corporate staff, to go, hey, you're connected. If I go into business with you, it's not just you. I've got access to these other people who are influential that you're introducing me to. It moves the prospect to the next step. All right, we're talking about helping them to do an evaluation, so we're moving them forward one step at a time. And it also shows that prospect a process which they can duplicate if they want to. And this is absolutely critical. And I'll often talk to the prospect about this. Sometimes prospects will say, well, I don't want to talk to this other person, I'll just talk to you. All right, and I'm sure you guys, if you've been talking to people, you've had that from time to time as well. And there's no secrets here. I say to them, listen, one of the reasons I want to introduce you to my business partner is because if you decide to come into this business with me, I want you to feel like you can do this business and be successful at it relatively quickly without having to be an expert. And so that's one of the reasons why we use this process. This is part of our setting you up for success process, because, remember how I just invited you to watch the webinar? You think you could do that? Oh, yeah. Okay, so now you've seen the webinar. I'm going to introduce you to my business partner. Because what you're watching me do is basically saying, watch this, now talk to this person. Do you think you could do that? Oh, yeah. Okay, so the only way for me to really teach you this business is for you to experience the process. So I'm teaching you through my actions. So it doesn't matter what comes out of this phone call we're going to do. I just want you to experience it. So you realize that we're not, people with two heads. We're not people who are breathing down your neck trying to flog your product or convince you to join the business or do something you don't want to do. Because ultimately, if this business is for you and you were comfortable with what we've done, you're going to go, cool, I can see myself bringing my contacts through this same process. All right, so it's them up to win and see something they can duplicate from day one. So ultimately, when we're getting on these three-way phone calls, number one is you need to learn how to use the technology. That's your job. Go learn how to do a three-way phone call. Call your mum, call your brother, say, hey, I'm just practicing a new technique for my new business. And they go, what business? You say, great, I'll talk to you about it later. All right? So just practice. Don't practice on live hand grenades. Practice on your friends, your family. Just get used to using it so you're not fumbling and old fumble fingers when you're on game day. All right? So once you've connected the prospect to your upline, this is your job to listen and learn, all right? Live on the job training like we talked about. If you're doing a lot of three-way phone calls with your team, get a headset, all right? Because it gets tiring. It literally gets tiring holding your phone to your head for 20 minutes or half an hour if it's a great call. Maybe it goes for an hour if you've got a ripping prospect. So get a headset so you can be walking around, and that's another thing too. For me, if I'm into a really good phone call, I get up and I start walking around and pacing around the house and walking off from the coffee shop and leaving my computer on the table, because there's something about getting up and moving which creates a different energy and dynamic when you're on the phone. And also put a smile on your dial, all right? Even if you're faking it, your body doesn't realize you're tricking yourself. People can hear a smile through the phone, all right? And you'd know this. When people are smiling, having a good time, like I'm smiling right now, can you hear it? So these are some tips when you're doing your phone calls. Now, three-way phone calls can go many different ways. And I do not see a three-way phone call as a closing call. I do not have a specific objective that I'm going to get this prospect to make this particular decision, because it's not my decision, it's their decision, and it really depends on what their needs, wants, and don't wants are. So prior to the phone call, you need to have done a couple of things. First of all, you need to have made sure that you've made a specific time that's scheduled in advance and confirmed with everybody involved. All right, you don't sit there with a prospect and go, oh, hang on, let me get Marcus on the line, and then go, oh, no, usually answers he's not there. Well, if you want to try when you're sitting with someone, that's fine, but tell them in advance, hey, let's just try them now, and if they're there, that's great, but if not, let's schedule a time. All right, because then we have an appointment-based business. 99% of people who start a network marketing business already have a job and they already have a business. And if that's you, you don't want your team members calling you in the middle of work, in the middle of dinner, in the middle of your kids' school play. You've got a life. So if you're scheduling these calls in advance, and if your team members are scheduling them in advance, you can have an appointment-based business like most other professions in life. Okay, so schedule them in advance. You also then know that your upline or your business partner is available to take that call. They've got it locked in their diary, and you can confirm that. So when the time comes, call your prospect first to make sure they're actually going to answer. And when they do, say, great, listen, let me just get my business partner on the line. I'm just going to put you on hold for a second. While they're on hold, you call your upline or your business partner and you give them a quick brief about your prospect. It only needs to be 60 seconds while your prospect's on hold. So the brief is letting them know, okay, I've got Mary on the line. She's seen a webinar. You listen, she's got some questions and some interest in the business. She's a little bit worried that she doesn't have much time, so maybe bear that in mind. And I know Mary from school. She works in the mortgage industry. And that's now given my business partner enough information to know where they're at, where they want to go. And I might say, listen, I think, she's at the point where maybe, she can start to make some decisions about the business, or maybe she wants to come along to a meeting or try the product. So I'm giving my business partner enough information to go into that call, to start a conversation, and to know roughly where I think this person may go. So the first thing we do when we put both people on the line together is you introduce and edify your upline or your business partner, okay? So you don't rattle on and make them sound like they've just won 27 Nobel Prizes, because that just is a bit ridiculous, but you want to position that person so that the prospect feels like they're talking to somebody who's an expert, they've got experience, they've got success, and they're able to help them in this business. Once you've done that, you also introduce and edify the prospect, all right? And you might advise on the call what steps the prospect's taken. So it might sound like this. I might say, hey, Lyndon, I've got Mary on the line. Mary's a good friend of mine. She's actually just watched the webinar on Monday night. She's got some interest in the business, maybe a couple of concerns about her time issues. And you know, Lyndon, Mary, I think could be great at this because she works in the mortgage industry. She's really good with people. I understand she's got some time constraints, but maybe even that's, I'm thinking what could be in it for her, because if we can help her free up some time, she's going to get some more opportunities to spend some time with her kids and go on a few more holidays, because you know, I know that's been a bit of a concern for her. So with that, I'll hand the call over to you guys. Okay, so once you've done the quick introduction, edification on both sides, you turn the conversation over to your business partner and you put duct tape on your mouth and you do not talk. You do not talk or interrupt or add any little bits and pieces, no matter how amazing you think it is. You do not say anything unless the person controlling the conversation, which is your business partner, asks you to add something. All right? I was terrible at this. I just couldn't help myself. I would always have to throw things in, or I thought my sponsor was taking too long to answer the question. I was just wanting to jump in there. You know, every time you jump in, you throw the conversation off track. All right? Your business partner knows what they're doing. They might be leading the conversation through a series of questions to come back and have the prospect actually answer their own question, which is a lot more powerful. So every time we jump in, it throws the conversation off track. Put your conversation on mute, listen and learn. All right? Once the conversation has been handed back to you by your business partner, you can thank the upline for being on the call, let them go, and then you can close off the call with your prospect, giving them some clear next steps. All right? You just don't hang up and go, all right, well, let me know what you think, or when you're ready. Give them a clear next step, like, okay, I'll send you this video on the compensation plan, or hey, let's get you along to the next meeting, or how about, you know, let's look at which product package is best for you. Or, you know, depends what's been identified on the call as to what the next step is. So there's two things happening on these three-way phone calls. There's your role, all right? You're the distributor who's introducing the prospect. So your role is to edify the upline and the business partner, to edify the prospect, to stay quiet during the conversation while you're listening to your business partner and the prospect talking. Your job is to learn and take notes. This is your on-the-job training. I just shake my head when sometimes I get off a phone call and I said, hey, you know, at what point did you think that conversation turned? Oh, I wasn't really sure. I was on mute and I was doing the dishes and I was doing this with the kids and I went after, and I'm going, are you serious? I've just given you the best on-the-job training you could have ever got and you couldn't even afford to pay for, and you're not even listening? This is your job, to learn and take notes. And then your job is to end the call with your prospect with a clear next step. The upline's role is to edify you. All right, because at the end, they're going to say, hey, you're really lucky to be working with Fred. You know, Fred's just getting started, but I know he's really committed. He's turning up to all the meetings, he's at all the trainings. You know, we've got a plan together, and he's somebody who's going to be able to help you as well and help your team grow. Your upline's role is also to bring credibility to the business. It's also to build a relationship with your prospect, so it's not just you dealing with them. And it's also to assist the prospect to move to the next step, whatever that next step is, or move toward the desired outcome if possible. All right, we're not necessarily going to close them. Just depends where they're up to and where they're at. So during that phone call, if you're somebody who's actually the upline, if you're the person who's getting three-way phone calls from your downline or from your team members, when you get a prospect on the phone, you know, don't sit back like you're the king or the queen and go, right, I'm the expert, ask me all the questions. If you've got no questions, move along. Thanks, I'm busy. No, we're supposed to be helping our team members to make that person feel comfortable. So start asking questions that build rapport. Things like, hey, you know, where do you live? All right, or, you know, what do you do right now for work? How long have you been in that line of business? What's got you looking around at a home-based business? From the information that you saw, what did you like best so far? What caught your attention about the product or the business from what you've seen? Have you ever been involved in the industry before? Are you actually open? Because I've had a lot of people who have been introduced to me through the years who my distributors have said, oh, this person's only interested in the product. They're not interested in the business. They're only interested in the product. And I'm going, yep, yep, yep. And then throughout the conversation, as it's evolved and I've created a bit of rapport and I feel like the timing's right, I'll ask them, hey, are you just interested in the product, or are you actually open to the business and maybe making some extra money as well? A lot of times they say, yeah, well, I actually am interested. And so it's amazing what happens when you gain some rapport, you ask the right questions, and you move them logically into a space where it is comfortable. Nobody's going to get upset with you or upset with your business partner if they are asked, hey, are you just interested in the products that we deal with, or are you open to making some extra money and helping some people as well? Nobody's going to be offended for being asked that sort of a question. All right. So, and the last one, are you looking for something part-time, or are you kind of really wanting to make some serious income? All right. So you're identifying what's their potential point of interest. You're not ramming anything down their throat. You're identifying where they're at. So we're asking questions. We're giving relevant information based on their responses, and then we're listening again. The old saying, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Okay. So we want to get around in the conversation, like we just don't want to be shooting the breeze for half an hour and just talking about the weather and everything else. We want to get around to Janess and start asking questions like, so based on what you've seen so far, what did you like best? Or did you get a chance to watch the video that Mary sent you? Did it make sense? Now could be a good time for you to share your own story about what attracted you to Janess, or what attracted you to the network marketing industry. How business has been going so far. Or you might share a story about somebody in the business that is in a similar situation to them, or has a similar need or problem that they have. All right, so it doesn't have to be your story every time. And that's the benefit of you going to the conferences and going to the meetings, because you get to hear everybody else's stories that you can build up as a library of stories that you can bring out at the appropriate time. At some point, you want to take their temperature, okay, and ask a joining question if it's appropriate. So if someone's sounding like they're making the right noises and asking the right questions, you can say, would you like me to help you get started? They're not going to get offended. They'll go, oh, we're not ready yet, or I need to try the product, or I need some more information, or I need to talk to my husband or wife. You can ask them, is there anything else you need to know before we help you get started? It's a really gentle question, but it's leading them forward. If you feel like it's appropriate, just ask them that. Or you might ask them, if you're not really sure, you kind of can't really get your head around, well, are they ready or not ready? Just ask them, say, listen, just to give me a bit of an idea of where you're at with this, if you had to rate your level of interest from 1 to 10, with 10 being you want to jump through the phone and sign up straight away, or you're a 1, which means you're not interested at all, how would you rate your level of interest right now? And just let them pick from 1 to 10. And if they say anywhere from 5 or above, I'll say, hey, well, it sounds like you've got a pretty high level of interest. Maybe, now's a good time to start looking at your startup options and or come along to a meeting, or, whatever you think the most appropriate next step is. So you take their temperature. So you're basically selling the next step. You're always thinking, what's the next step forward or towards making a decision? Because our job is to help them make a decision. It could be yes or it could be no. That's okay. But maybes are no good. We don't want people out in weirdo world wandering around and they're neither here nor there. We want to help moving them forward, getting them information so they feel like they're ready to make a decision. Once they are, we can enroll them on paper, over the phone, or we can get them to text the details that we need to get their accounts set up. We want to welcome them to the team, congratulate them on their decision, and then we want to move them into the getting started training. All right, that's really important. When someone's decided they want to get involved in the business, they're probably never going to be more excited than they are right now. Yes, they might be nervous, they might not know what to do, so that's exactly why it's important for us to lead them and let them know, right, the next step is I'm going to send you through the quick start training or the getting started training. It's going to teach you how to write out your list and the type of people that do well in this business. All right, and once you've done that, we'll have a coaching call and we'll start to give you some idea of what you're going to say to these people and what you're going to invite them to do. So you're leading them into this new business opportunity. So with that, I hope that's been of help for you guys. Focus on these dollar productive activities. Get people onto three-way phone calls. Get good at doing three-way phone calls, and your business will absolutely go to the next level. Good night, everybody.